Next, what's the best way to tackle online hate speech, radicalisation and disinformation, or fake news in online forums? In Parliament today, Labour MP will start the process of making a new law to try to make people in charge of online forums legally liable for any hate speech and defamation that occurs within the groups they manage. One of its other aims will be to crack down on secret online groups on Facebook, particularly those with more than 500 members, which it says should be banned. They want to target groups like one which was called Jewish Ritual Murder, which promoted false stories that Jews kill Christian babies during religious festivals. Another, which promoted giving children bleach as a cure for autism. And a group called Marines United, in which serving and ex-Marines in America and the UK shared nude pictures of fellow service women. But would such plans work? Let's talk to the MP who's introducing the bill, Labour's Lucy Powell, also Emma Dalmayne, an autistic mum who uncovered Facebook groups online recommending those bizarre, inaccurate and dangerous so-called cures for autism, and Jamie Bartlett, author of The People versus Tech, who's presented documentaries about the internet and social media companies. He also works for a cross-party think tank called Demos. Thanks, all of you. Thank you for coming on the programme. Lucy, this is much wider than hate speech, isn't it? It's about making administrators and moderators of online forums liable for hate speech, misinformation, fake news, and so on and so forth.
It is, yes, because just like our newspapers, our broadcasters, our radio programmes, they are held to very high standards, high journalistic standards, high standards of accountability and responsibility. But the online forum world is unaccountable, really, and doesn't have the same level of responsibility at all. And many of these online forums, some of these Facebook groups, for example, have tens of thousands of members in them, and their power and their penetration and their reach far exceeds those of many of our national newspapers, of many of our radio stations. Yet if something is posted in there about you which is wrong or libelous, or if something is posted in there which is racist or misogynistic or is inciting acts of violence, there's very little anyone can do about it. So I think it's about time the law caught up. I think that when I was looking at this, the last time that a new piece of legislation was brought in this space was in 2003. That was before Facebook even existed.
Emma, you uncovered this so-called autism cure in this secret Facebook group. What did you find?
Parents are using chlorine dioxide, bleach, turpentine and a banned blood product called GC meth on their children, believing it can purge their autism. They're told that the children have parasites and they have to use... it is chlorine dioxide. It's water purification.
Who is telling them that?
Am I allowed to say names?
No, don't say names. But I mean, is it parents of autistic children? Is it who?
It's a parent of an autistic child who has written a book, which is recommending this treatment. And
this is a secret Facebook group?
There's so many. As soon as you get one shut down, it opens up under a different name. You know, and I do believe that the admins of these groups should be prosecuted because they're allowing parents to put up pictures of their children's bowel lining, of their children having seizures, you know, nosebleeds, vomiting, diarrhoea. And they're allowing this and they're advising, just keep upping the dose because the autism's leaving them.
Wow.
You know, not get your child to hospital.
Totally inaccurate, totally dangerous.
Yeah, well...
With thousands of members, wasn't it, that one?
Yeah.
Jamie, what do you think about this idea of making the moderators liable?
Yeah, I think we're all trying to get to the same place, which is platforms and people being a bit more responsible. But I am worried about the consequences of some of this. I mean, a lot of moderators are, firstly, spread all over the world. It's very hard to know where they actually are. Secondly, you'll often find that moderators you get teenagers that are moderators, you get teenagers that are moderators of all sorts of different groups. They don't have legal understanding or experience, and suddenly they're going to be held responsible for things that they probably don't really understand very well. And I know what we're trying to get to, but I don't even think that's the worst of it, though. This idea about secret Facebook groups being made public or banned, I quite strongly disagree with. Again, I see there are big problems with them. But the issue is that most secret Facebook groups are not about this stuff. You'll have anti-fascist Facebook groups that want to stay secret because they don't want people knowing what they're up to. Because you have support groups, you have LGBT groups in particular neighbourhoods and areas. And if you make, Jamie Bartlett's surprise birthday group, I don't want this stuff to be made public.
Lucy Powell, go on, talk to Jamie and tell him.
Yeah, and I hear that, and a lot of people have said that. I mean, I think the point
But are you ignoring it?
No, I think there's two issues. One is about scale. So I think we're talking about groups over a certain amount, maybe 500, maybe 1,000. We'll have to consult about that.
Huge groups as well. I mean, these positive groups are huge as well.
But secondly, the issue is about knowing the group exists at all in the first place. It's not about saying you need to publish all the members of the group and have that public, but the security services, anybody can't actually. The autism support groups didn't even know these groups existed with thousands of members. So I think to say the name of the group, broadly how many members you've got of it, so that at least you know they exist. But happening in complete secret when you are spreading misinformation.
Yeah.
I do understand the civil liberty issues, but I think it's a
Facebook
balance.
need to monitor what's going on in these groups, and when you've got groups like healing autism, recovering autism, purging autism, things like that,
I agree with that. But if you break Facebook, and I don't usually defend Facebook in this way. I'm usually an arts critic. But if you break Facebook's terms and conditions, even in secret groups, you will be shut down. The authorities can also request information about you. They can be faster and more effective, definitely, but the authorities can also request that Facebook turns over information about these groups. But I understand the idea that this is not about naming people, but even the names of the group. If you put out, for example, that you're an anti-fascist group in Manchester, immediately, fascist groups in Manchester will try and infiltrate that group and find what they're about.
True.
So you give something away even by the name and the size.
And what about the point of teenagers who might be moderators, who've got no legal understanding of what it is they're moderating, let's be honest, suddenly being held accountable?
Well, because I think this is the point, really. I think what I'm trying to do here is and I've got a cross-party group of very senior MPs supporting the bill today, is to start to send a strong signal to say you are actually responsible. It's not sufficient to say, well, look, I've got this group with thousands of people on it, which has got stuff being posted on it every day and shared on it every day, which then appears in the timeline of another tens of thousands of people who are involved in it, that I have got no responsibility at all for checking what's there. So I think it's about saying to people, if you are setting up and running these groups, then you do have some responsibility. You can't just say, well, hang on a minute, I'm a teenager, didn't know what I was doing. No. Whoever you are, you're going to have some... In the same way that if you were publishing a newspaper or if you had an online site on the website, some people would have recourse if you publish something
Would it force
correctly.
companies like Facebook to employ more experienced moderators?
But it's not Facebook employees that are moderating these groups.
And then it doesn't hit actual people that are looking into them.
It's people that are moderating these groups, and it's not just Facebook. It's all sorts of different platforms. So there's lots and lots of different... If we're making administrators and moderators of forums legally responsible, then it goes far beyond Facebook.
Right.
But it's that for some people this would then become a complete full-time job. They'd have to do nothing but check every single post that each person was putting up there. I would rather
subjects like that they should be checking.
I would rather that Facebook itself was more responsible. So it's not just about the poor moderator who's running this group. The company Facebook has to be more responsible. So if, for example, in the case of Germany, they've passed this law, and I think this is partly inspired by that, they repeatedly do not quickly remove stuff that's hateful or illegal, then Facebook gets fined. But it's not the moderator getting fined, it's the platform.
And I think the company should. I think Facebook should be doing a lot more. And Tom Watson, the Labour MP, is calling for the German style.
Why go for the moderators at all, then?
Well, I think the moderator, because the company and the moderators, I think it's both hand in hand, because
Emma,
the platforms are huge.
I did, yeah. If you've got admin advising parents, four adults holding down one 3-year-old to force a bleach enema into them, and this moderator who owns the group, who created the group, is saying, that's a good thing, go Team Rio. Yes, they should be prosecuted. These people should be prosecuted.
I think what you have to remember is that there is, for a lot of people who establish these groups in the first place, or who operate on these groups, but who establish them in the first place, do so with a malign intent, and they do so with a particular agenda, whether it's far-right organisations, far-left organisations, anti-vaccination groups, groups that say you can cure autism. So they're not like unknowing, ignorant teenagers.
We are focusing on those bad things, and I get that, but it is important to remember, and one thing we've learned over the last several months of stories about Russian hacking and Cambridge Analytica is the value of privacy. And there are so many other groups which people use for all sorts of really good things. And I guess I'm just worried that in the interest of trying to solve these very real problems, we actually end up dragging lots of decent people into this with legal responsibilities they don't understand and making public secret groups that should probably remain secret.
OK, thank you.
Yeah. Balance to be struck always.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Still to come before.